Let's see what this British ex-Christian revert to Islam has to say.
The problem for Christianity is the idea that God became a man in Jesus. This is a late idea. It's not there in Jesus' ministry. It's only found actually in the Gospel of John. This is the last Gospel to be written. In the earlier Gospels of Matthew, Mark and Luke, Mark's the earliest, there's no incarnation at all, and that's the least historical Gospel of all, and that's the Gospel of John. Only in one place in the Gospels does Jesus walk around saying, I am the light of the world, or before Abraham was, I am, or I am the resurrection of the life, or I am the light of the world. All these I am statements are only found in one Gospel, the last Gospel of John. If you look at the early Gospels, Jesus never speaks like this. He speaks about God. He speaks about repentance. God is someone other than Jesus. He's not the message. God is the message. He's the messenger. He's the prophet, for sure, but he is not God.
So I'm going to read from this book by James Digidon, a heavyweight New Testament scholar, what he has to say concerning this I am statement that this man, William Spall, mentioned. He says from page 36 of his book, he says, and I read, call it scholarly skepticism if you will, but I must confess that I find it almost incredible that such sayings should have been neglected had they been known as a feature of Jesus' teaching. If the I ams had been part of the original tradition, it is very hard indeed to explain why none of the other three evangelists made use of them. Most scholars therefore find themselves forced by the evidence to look for another explanation. And then he also says concerning the fact that most Christians, when they want to talk about the historical Jesus Christ, they usually quote the Gospel of John. He says about this, for on the question of the historical value of John's Gospel, there is probably one of the biggest gulfs between New Testament scholarship and the man in the pew. The man in the pew means the common man, the average man in the street. In preaching and devotional Bible study, the assumption is usually made that all four Gospels are straightforward historical sources for information about what Jesus did or said, whereas scholars have almost always found themselves pushed to the conclusion that John's Gospel reflects much more of the early church's understanding of Jesus than of Jesus' own self-understanding. There is Christian interpretation in the other three Gospels, as we have seen, but in John's Gospel, there is much more of it. So he is saying that there is this big gulf between how scholars understand the Gospel of John and how the layman understands the Gospel of John. For the layman, the first evidence that he is going to go to tell you about Jesus Christ is the Gospel of John. In the beginning was the Word, and the Word was with God. Jesus Christ said, I am the way, the truth, and the life. Whosoever has seen me has seen the Father. This is what the common man usually does. However, the scholar will take the Gospel of John as the last place to go to give you any evidence for the historical Jesus. So again, this is from the work James Digidon, The Evidence for Jesus. Till next time.